My best friend showed up at my door sobbing, claiming her boyfriend hit her. I gave her my guest room, my clothes, my trust. 2 weeks later, she kissed my husband in his sleep. I caught it on our hallway camera. Now she's humming in my kitchen like nothing happened, wearing my robe. The night Lena showed up at our door, she looked like she'd been dragged through a storm. Her eyes were swollen, one side of her lip slightly split, and her voice was a hushed whisper that barely reached above the wind. She clutched a tote bag like it was her last anchor to the world. Of course I let her in. We hadn't spoken in years, not really, not since college. Life pulled us in different directions, but Lena had always been the wild but brilliant one, the girl who knew how to set a room on fire just by laughing. And now she was here, barefoot in the dark, running from a man she claimed had destroyed her spirit. I gave her my guest room. I made her tea. I found one of my old robes and helped her wash the blood out of her hair. She cried in my arms until her breathing slowed, and I kept whispering, "You're safe now," because that's what you do when someone you love is broken. The first few days were quiet. She slept a lot. I worked from home and checked in often. My husband Mark kept his distance respectfully. He offered to fix the guest bathroom faucet she complained about, and he even made her breakfast once when I had to hop on an early meeting. She thanked us constantly, said she couldn't believe how lucky she was to have someone like me, and I believed her. I gave her a spare key, my old sweaters, even a few perfumes I didn't wear much anymore. She kept borrowing more of my things, always joking, "You always had better taste than me." I laughed it off at first. Then she started borrowing more than clothes. It was little things at first, using my hairbrush and leaving it damp on the bathroom sink, the faint smell of my perfume, the one I always wore to work, suddenly lingering in the hallway when I knew I hadn't touched it. Her laughter echoing from the kitchen when she was alone with Mark. She'd touch his arm when she thanked him, hold eye contact just a second too long. I started feeling ridiculous for noticing, paranoid, guilty even. She was hurt, and I was jealous because she was, surviving loudly? Then I found her wearing my favorite cardigan, the one Mark gave me for our anniversary. I didn't say anything. I couldn't. I just smiled and nodded when she said it fell out of my closet. That night I asked Mark if he felt like Lena was maybe overstepping. He blinked, confused. Said no. Said I was being protective and that it made sense. "She's vulnerable," he said, kissing my forehead. "She's not a threat." But then came the laugh, hers, from our bedroom. I had come home early, laptop bag still over my shoulder. I wasn't quiet about it, didn't tiptoe or sneak, but there she was, sitting on my side of the bed, in my robe, laughing at something Mark had said while he buttoned his shirt near the dresser. They both froze when I walked in. Lena smiled too quickly. "Oh my God, I was just trying to cheer him up after that brutal meeting he had." I nodded and went straight to the kitchen. My hands trembled as I unpacked groceries I didn't remember buying. That night I couldn't sleep. I kept telling myself to trust her. Trust him, that I was seeing ghosts where there were none. Then came the breaking point. 2 nights ago, Mark came to bed after midnight. He seemed restless. I asked if something was wrong. He hesitated. Then, with this pained expression, he said, "I think Lena kissed me while I was asleep." I blinked. "What?" I woke up. It was brief. I was on the couch. You'd already gone to bed. I thought I was dreaming at first, but she was leaning over me, and then she walked away fast when I sat up. I couldn't speak. He swore he didn't reciprocate. Swore he was shocked. That he didn't even understand what happened until a minute later. "Maybe I misread it," he said, though his voice was hollow. But it didn't feel accidental. I didn't sleep at all that night. The next morning, I checked the hallway camera we installed years ago. I'd forgotten it was even still on. There it was, 1:38 a.m., Lena walking into the living room quietly. Bending over the couch, pausing. Then that unmistakable movement, her face lowering toward his, the timestamp. The way she froze when Mark stirred, and the way she fled toward the guest room seconds later. I watched it 5 times. My chest felt like it had been cored. I haven't spoken to her yet. She's in the kitchen now, humming while she makes eggs, wearing my slippers. And I'm here, typing this like it'll help me figure out what I'm supposed to do next. I didn't confront her right away. I couldn't. My brain was still trying to make the footage lie to me. Maybe it wasn't a kiss. Maybe it was a whisper. Maybe she thought he was me. Ridiculous, I know. But the alternative meant admitting that someone I once called a sister had crossed the line I can't uncross. I deleted the footage from the hallway cam and saved a copy to my private drive, just in case. The whole next day, I was a ghost in my own home. Lena didn't seem to notice. She made jokes over coffee. Asked if I wanted to do a girls' night like old times. Mark avoided her like she was radiation. Said he had deadlines. Locked himself in his office. I saw how his hands shook when he poured his coffee. That night, I finally asked her, softly, gently, if she was okay. Not about the kiss, just, "Are you okay, really?" She blinked, smiled. "Better than ever. You've given me this safe little island to heal on." Her hand brushed my shoulder as she passed me in the hallway. I nearly flinched. 2 days later, I came home from work and smelled my perfume. The one I wore on our wedding day. The one Mark once said smelled like coming home. It was thick in the air like a fog. I found the bottle on her dresser, half empty. No shame, no attempt to hide it. That night I told Mark everything. The video, the perfume, the robe, the tension that's been pressing against my ribs like a stone. "I'm sorry," he said, voice hollow. "I should have done more. I should have told her to leave the second I felt weird around her." And then he admitted something else. That 2 days before the kiss, Lena had come into his office late at night, said she couldn't sleep, sat on the floor beside his desk and asked questions like, "Do you ever wonder what your life would have been like if you'd met someone like me first?" He said he brushed it off as emotional bleed from her trauma. I didn't want to make her feel ashamed. But now he felt sick. I wanted to scream, but the scream stayed coiled in my throat, suffocating me. The final crack came the next morning. I walked into my bathroom and found her toothbrush in my cup, her hairbrush next to mine, a pink razor in my shower. The bathroom smelled like her body wash, the one she bought after she complimented mine. It wasn't just my space anymore. It was ours. No, hers. I stared at my reflection and whispered, "You let this in." And then I did something I wasn't proud of. I went through her bag. Inside, neatly folded, was the cardigan Mark gave me last Christmas. Not borrowed, taken, stuffed next to a notebook with my name scribbled dozens of times across one page. My name, and Mark's, with hearts, with arrows. I zipped the bag shut and sat on the floor. My heart pounded, not out of fear, out of betrayal, out of the terrifying realization that I had no idea what Lena's version of healing really meant, and that maybe she hadn't run from an abuser. Maybe she just traded him for my life, and I let her in. That night, I told Mark she had to go. He didn't hesitate. "I'll support whatever you decide," he said, which somehow made me even angrier. Because I had to be the one to draw the line, to evict the woman who was slowly bleeding my life into hers while everyone tiptoed around her healing. I waited until morning. I couldn't sleep anyway. My body was wired with a kind of quiet panic that hummed in my veins. She was in the kitchen again, barefoot, pouring my coffee into her favorite mug, the one I got from that bookstore in Portland, the one she'd started calling mine like a joke. "Lena," I said. My voice shook. She turned, all smiles, glowing. "Hey, you're up early." I didn't sit. I didn't smile. "I need to talk to you about moving out." She blinked, laughed. "What?" "I think it's time," I said carefully. "You've had a few weeks to rest, and it's just been complicated. For everyone." Her smile faded like a light switch. "You're serious?" "I am." Silence. Then a scoff. "Wow, okay. Complicated for who, exactly?" I didn't answer. She knew. I saw it in her eyes. Her posture shifted. "Let me guess," she said, her voice sharp now. "Mark told you something. You think I'm some homewrecker. After everything I've been through, you're kicking me out. I saw the footage, Lena." I didn't mean to say it, but I did. And her whole face froze. She looked away, then back at me, calculating. "He kissed me back," she said quietly. It felt like getting punched in the stomach. "He was half asleep," I whispered. She shrugged. "Does that matter? Maybe he wanted it. Maybe he needed someone who actually saw him." I didn't even recognize her. This wasn't the friend I knew. This was something else. Something feral, wearing her skin. "Pack your things," I said, cold and shaking. "I want you out by tonight." She didn't argue, just stared at me like I was the traitor, as if I had ruined some imaginary plan she was still pretending wasn't hers. I locked the bedroom door that night. She didn't leave. Mark and I waited, expecting to hear bags being packed, a door closing, her car starting. Nothing. At midnight, I walked into the guest room, empty, bed untouched. I checked the bathroom. No toiletries. Her things were gone, but she wasn't. My stomach dropped. I turned toward the garage, and that's where I found her, sitting in the dark on the floor beside the dryer, hugging my cardigan to her chest like it was a person, crying. She didn't look up when I called her name. I backed away slowly, heart pounding, and locked every door in the house, because I suddenly realized something I hadn't let myself believe before. Lena hadn't come here to heal. She came here to replace me. I didn't sleep that night. Every creak of the floorboards felt like a warning. I lay in bed, wide-eyed, gripping Mark's hand like it was the only thing tethering me to sanity. We kept the bedroom door locked, a chair jammed under the knob. It felt ridiculous. It also felt necessary. In the morning, Lena was gone. No note, no text, no sound of her car pulling away. Just gone, like a fever breaking. Her room was stripped bare. The bed made military tight like she'd never been there, except she had, and she left a fingerprint on every corner of our lives. I checked the hallway cam again. She left at 4:12 a.m., duffel in hand. She didn't look back. You'd think I'd feel relief. Instead, I stood in the middle of our kitchen staring at the empty coffee mug rack and realized my mug was missing. The one she loved, the one she'd quietly adopted. It was such a small, petty thing, and yet the loss of that mug made me sit down and cry like something inside me had finally broken. Mark tried to be comforting. He apologized again, said he should have seen the signs, should have done more, but every time he touched me I stiffened. I didn't mean to, but the truth was, a small part of me did wonder if he had wanted it, if her stories about the abuse softened him, if her sudden vulnerability, her hungry need for safety, somehow pulled something from him. He swore he never touched her, swore he never looked at her that way. But there's a quiet kind of betrayal that doesn't involve skin, just silence, just watching it happen and doing nothing. Over the next few days I kept expecting Lena to reach out, to send some warped apology or worse, a justification. She didn't. Instead, I started noticing what was missing. My favorite sweater, gone. One of my rings, a silver one I wore constantly, vanished from the bathroom shelf. My backup phone charger, an old Polaroid of Mark and me, my wedding nail polish, she took pieces of me. Mark tried to make things normal again. He offered to repaint the guest room, said maybe we could turn it into a gym or an office. But I couldn't even walk past it. The house felt haunted by her presence, not because of what she did, but because of what I allowed. I invited her in. I poured compassion down her throat until she swallowed pieces of my identity and spit out something unrecognizable. The real kicker came a week later. I got a call from my old stylist. She said, "Hey, did you want to keep that color? Your friend Lena booked an appointment under your name last week. Same hair dye, same cut, everything. She even brought in your photo as a reference." I felt like I was going to vomit. She didn't want my home. She wanted my life, and I gave her the blueprint. I started locking my closet. It sounds dramatic, I know, but after the call from the salon, I couldn't trust what was still mine. I walked around the house touching things. Books, frames, throw pillows, wondering if Lena had touched them too, if she'd taken more, if she'd left something behind that I hadn't yet discovered. Grief has a strange smell. For me, it was her perfume, still clinging to the hallway curtain where she'd leaned too often, watching Mark work in the yard. I tried to throw it in the wash. The scent didn't budge. Mark noticed how tense I was, how I flinched when he walked into a room too quietly. He tried to hold me one night and I just couldn't, not because I didn't love him, but because I couldn't tell if I still recognized us. She used me, I said. She used both of us, he replied. But I let her, and there it was, the rot. I kept playing the scenes back in my mind. The first night, her broken voice, the way I offered everything without boundaries, without pause. Was it compassion, or was it some deep, needy pride, my chance to be the savior? Either way, I gave her the keys to everything, and she didn't just open doors, she started rearranging the furniture. 2 days later, I got an email. No subject line, just one photo attachment. It was Lena, smiling, wearing my cardigan, sitting on a park bench, Mark's mug in her hand. Her hair dyed to match mine. Even her posture mimicked mine, shoulders square, the exact tilt of the chin I used in photos. I knew it wasn't coincidence. The message said nothing. She didn't have to. I showed Mark. His face turned pale. "This is unhinged," he said. "We should call someone." But what would I say? "Hi, my ex-friend is cosplaying as me and I feel like I'm being erased?" There's no crime in imitation, just horror. So instead, I changed the locks. I bought a new coffee mug. I threw away the perfume bottle, the robe, everything she touched. I made Mark sleep in the guest room for now. Not out of punishment, but because I needed to breathe in my own air again. The silence between us wasn't angry, just tired, heavy. Then yesterday I got a call from the front desk at my office building. "Hey," the woman said. "There's Alina here? Says she's your assistant?" She was trying to sign in but didn't have her badge. I froze. "I don't have an assistant." "Oh," the receptionist said slowly. "She had your name memorized. She knew your department. Even said she was shadowing you for an internship." My mouth went dry. "Did she leave?" "She got upset when I wouldn't let her up. Said you'd be embarrassed. She left, I think. Security escorted her out." I thanked her, hung up, and then I sat at my desk and stared at the wall for a long, long time, because this wasn't about a kiss anymore. This wasn't about Mark. This was about a woman who had decided that my life was better suited for her, and she wasn't done taking it. By the time I got home that evening, I was shaking. Mark was cooking, something with garlic and thyme, trying to keep things normal. I told him what happened at my office. His eyes widened, then narrowed. "That's not okay," he said, voice low. "No," I said. "It's not." He reached for his phone. "We should file a report. At least document it." But I hesitated. "Report what exactly?" "That she pretended to be my assistant? She's stalking you, babe, or something close to it." That word made my skin crawl. Stalking. Because it sounded so dramatic, so distant, like something that happened in podcasts, not between two women who used to share lipstick and secrets and playlists. I didn't sleep that night either. I kept checking the street outside. Every time a car slowed near the curb, I froze. When our motion light flicked on at 3:24 a.m., I jolted out of bed. Nothing was there. But I knew she had come by. The next morning I found a tulip on the welcome mat. Just one, pink. She knew they were my favorite. She once helped Mark plan a birthday brunch where every place setting had a tiny tulip bud tucked into a napkin ring. She said they looked like hope in flower form. This tulip was fresh, no card, no vase. I picked it up with 2 fingers and dropped it into the trash. That day I called a lawyer, explained everything. The footage, the kiss, the emails, the attempted visit, the flower. He listened carefully, then said, "It's not illegal to imitate someone. But if this escalates, we can file for a restraining order. We need more than vibes." "Vibes," I repeated. "You mean gut instinct." "I mean intent. Provable harm. Harassment." I wanted to scream. By the time someone calls it harassment, it's already been hell for the victim. But I said thank you and hung up. When I got home that night, I found Mark sitting on the floor with a box of photos. Our wedding, our trip to Oregon, the blurry Polaroids from our first apartment. He looked up at me, grief in his eyes. "She's in here," he said. "Lena, in the background, everywhere. I didn't notice until now. She was always around." I sat beside him. "I think I need to leave for a few days," I said. "Just to reset. Do you want me to come?" I shook my head. "I need to remember who I am when she's not nearby." He nodded. That night, I packed a bag and drove to my sister's cabin by the lake. No cell service, no internet, just trees and silence and the sound of my own thoughts unraveling. The second night there, I dreamed I saw Lena in the woods. She didn't move, just stood between the trees, wearing my cardigan, holding my mug, smiling. When I woke up, the dream was still clinging to my skin like sweat. I walked outside for air. That's when I saw the faint outline of footprints in the dirt, too fresh to be mine, too small to be Mark's. And at the edge of the porch, nestled between 2 steps, was another tulip, this time red. I didn't scream. I wanted to. Every instinct in my body told me to bolt back inside, call someone, pack up, drive. But I just stood there barefoot on the porch, staring at the red tulip like it was a lit fuse. It was fresh, crisp, the stem still damp like it had just been clipped. There's a kind of horror that comes not from being hurt, but from being seen when you thought you were invisible. This cabin wasn't public knowledge. I hadn't posted it online, hadn't told anyone but Mark. Lena should have had no way of knowing where I'd gone. And yet, here it was. She was here. I stayed outside long enough to look around. Nothing obvious. No movement between the trees, but I felt watched. Every leaf crunch sounded intentional. Every breeze carried her name. Back inside, I locked every door, double-checked every window. My hands trembled so badly I dropped my phone twice trying to text Mark. Me. She found me, he replied immediately. What? Where are you? Are you okay? Do I need to drive up? Me. There was another tulip at the cabin. Red and footprints. I didn't imagine it. He didn't argue. I'm coming. Tonight. Don't argue. Just keep the lights on. By the time he arrived, it was nearly midnight. He banged on the door hard enough to scare me half to death, but I was never more relieved to see him. He checked the perimeter. Nothing. Just tracks leading from the woods and stopping at the steps. She's watching, I whispered. He nodded, jaw tight. We're calling the police in the morning. Even if they can't do much, we log it. We draw a line. But deep down, we both knew what that tulip meant. This wasn't just about obsession anymore. It was possession. Lena wasn't trying to be me anymore. She was erasing the version of me that existed without her, and she was getting closer. The next morning I found something else. Inside the cabin's kitchen drawer, tucked beneath a set of dish towels, was an old photograph. It hadn't been there when I arrived. I knew because I'd organized that drawer the night before. It was a printed photo of me, taken from behind, on our back porch, in my robe, holding coffee. A perfect replica of a morning I barely remembered, except I wasn't alone in the photo. Lena was in the frame, blurry in the background, watching me. Smiling, I dropped it. Mark picked it up with gloved hands. We're going to the police. Now. And as we packed, I kept thinking one thing. Lena never needed to steal my things. She'd been collecting pieces of me all along. We drove straight to the nearest police station. The photo zipped inside a plastic sleeve, the tulip stem sealed in a bag. I felt like a child presenting crayon scribbles to a courtroom, half expecting them to laugh, but they didn't. The officer who took our report didn't roll his eyes. He didn't ask if maybe I'd imagined it. He looked at the photo, at the footprints, at Mark's GPS log showing the route from our house to the cabin, and he nodded grimly. She's escalating, he said. Can you do anything? I asked. My voice cracked. I hated that it cracked. We can file an official harassment report, he said. That gives us documentation. If she comes near your home or work again, it's grounds for a restraining order. But she hasn't hurt me. The officer looked at me evenly. Not physically, yet. That yet landed hard. They logged everything. Even called the sheriff's department near the cabin to patrol the woods for signs of unauthorized vehicles. The deputy said he'd seen a silver sedan parked off the access road earlier that week, but didn't think much of it. We drove back home that afternoon. The whole way, I kept imagining her car behind us, her face in every rearview mirror, her hands on my mug, my cardigan, my husband. I had to slam the brakes once because my hands were shaking too hard. When we got home, Mark installed new cameras, one above the garage, one by the back fence. Motion-triggered alerts set to our phones. I changed my passwords, wiped my old devices, locked down my social accounts, then we waited. 2 nights later, I got another email. Subject line, thanks for the inspiration. No body text, just an attachment, a screenshot. It was a dating profile. Not mine. Hers. But the name on the account was my full name. Same photo, same age, my city, my job title. She'd created a carbon copy of me. But the bio was different. Just a small-town girl looking to build a life with someone who actually sees me. I believe in love, art, and second chances. I've been hurt before. I'm ready to start over, with someone new. Under interests, tulips, morning coffee, long walks by the lake. She was trying to launch herself as me, like this was a rebrand. And worst of all, one of her recent matches was a man Mark used to work with. I stared at the screen until it blurred. She's baiting, Mark said, jaw tight, trying to pull us out. Trying to make you react. I looked at him. It's working. I reported the profile. Blocked the man she matched with. But I knew it was like whack-a-mole. She could make another, and another. She didn't need the internet to find ways inside. She already had the map. Later that night, as I was brushing my teeth, I opened the drawer to grab my hairbrush. It wasn't there. Not the usual one, anyway. There was a different brush. Cheap, plastic, old, with a single long strand of blonde hair caught in the bristles. My stomach dropped. Lena had been here. Again. The thing about feeling hunted is that you stop trusting silence. Every creak becomes a threat, every shadow a whisper. I stood there in the bathroom, gripping that unfamiliar brush like it was a live wire, staring at the pale strand of hair tangled in its teeth. Lena's hair. She had been inside our home again, and I had no idea how. I called Mark, panic in my voice before I even formed a full sentence. He was in the garage, going through the security footage frame by frame. He bolted inside and saw the brush in my hand. Where did you find that? I pointed. He didn't ask anything else. Just picked up the brush with a paper towel, dropped it into a Ziploc, and whispered, she found a way in. We tore through the house that night. Every lock, every window, every hinge, We found it. The side door to the laundry room. The latch had been loosened. Subtle, deliberate. You wouldn't notice it unless you knew to look. She had a key, or she made one. She'd been slipping in and out, leaving breadcrumbs like a sick ritual. The mug, the tulip, now the brush. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't. We called the police again. The officer was sympathetic, but measured. Without catching her in the act, we're still dealing with circumstantial evidence, he said. You could file for a protection order, but I can't guarantee it'll be enforced unless there's direct contact. Direct contact? I repeated. What do you call this? He looked away. Creeping up to the line isn't the same as crossing it. I'm sorry. That night I didn't sleep. Neither did Mark. We sat in the living room, every light on, eyes darting between shadows. I didn't want to admit it out loud, but I was waiting for her. And just after 3 a.m., the motion alert buzzed on Mark's phone. He showed me the screen. It was her, standing in our backyard, at the edge of the camera's reach, not moving, not speaking, just standing there, wearing my old college sweatshirt. We called 911. By the time the police arrived, she was gone. Again, they searched. Took statements, promised extra patrols. But we knew what that meant. Nothing. Just more waiting. More watching. The next day, I packed a bag. I'm done reacting, I told Mark. I need to end this before she finishes whatever she thinks she started. He didn't like it, but he understood. I dug through my email. Found Lena's last known address from years ago. Cross-referenced it with social profiles. Found a cousin she used to live with. Tracked her to a rented apartment above a bookstore in a nearby town. I didn't go there to confront her. I went to see her, to confirm something my gut had been screaming for days, that this wasn't about love or obsession. It was about replacement, and I needed to look her in the eye to understand how much of me she thought was hers. I parked across the street from her building just after sunset. The upstairs window glowed warm, faint shadows moving behind the blinds. I watched for a long time, heart pounding, hands clenched in my lap. The irony hit me hard. After all the violations, I was the one sitting in the dark, watching her. And then the curtain lifted. Lena stepped into view, and I stopped breathing. She looked exactly like me, hair dyed to match my natural tone. Same cut, same loose curls. She wore a beige sweater I hadn't seen since she left my house, a near exact twin of one I still had. Her jeans were rolled the way I did it, even the way she held her wine glass. It was mine. I felt sick. She turned slightly, and for a moment I could have sworn she looked straight through the glass and into me. That was it. I couldn't just sit there anymore. I got out of the car. The building's front door was unlocked. I climbed the stairs slowly, each one heavier than the last. I didn't have a plan, just instinct. I knocked. Silence. Then soft footsteps. A pause. Then the lock clicked. She opened the door, and for the briefest moment her expression wasn't shock or fear. It was relief. "Hey," she said softly. "Like we were old friends meeting for coffee?" I couldn't speak. She tilted her head. "You came. You've been in my home," I whispered. She didn't deny it. I missed it. "You've been copying me, following me. You scared me, Lena. You violated me." Her eyes shimmered. "I didn't mean to scare you. I didn't know how to go back to who I was, so I tried being someone better, someone safe, and you were safe." I stepped back. "You thought stealing my life would fix you?" She blinked, as if the word stealing confused her. "I didn't steal it. I lived it, with you. I thought maybe I could keep a part." I was trembling now. "This ends. Now. I've filed reports. I've logged everything. If you ever come near me or my house again, I'll make sure you're arrested." She didn't flinch. "You don't belong in my story," I said. "You were part of it, but you don't get to be me." For the first time, something cracked in her. Her smile faltered. Her shoulders dropped. She stepped back and quietly, almost like a child, she said, "I never meant to hurt you." I believed that, and it didn't matter. I turned and walked away. No dramatic ending, no final scream, just the sound of my footsteps down the stairs, each one pulling a piece of my life back into place. Weeks passed. The police issued a restraining order after the incident was linked to her previous break-ins. She didn't fight it. She vanished again. Off social media, off radar. We changed our locks again, changed our routines, changed us. Mark and I are still healing. Some nights I still wake up thinking I hear her laugh in the hallway. I check the cameras more than I'd like to admit, but the house feels like mine again. I bought a new mug, white with gold trim, the first thing I didn't have to share with her. And when I drink from it, I remind myself of something. I am not what someone else tries to wear. I'm what's left standing after they fail.